listening to the Becoming More Me podcast with me, Teresa Lear Levine. You're already enough. But if you're anything like me, you thrive when you're stretching and developing yourself, creating more of the person you feel called to be. This podcast is here to inspire and support you. Let's release the negative, reinforce the positive, and elevate our vibe together as we tap into our limitless potential to transform and grow. Well, hello there, and welcome to another episode of Becoming More Me. I'm Teresa Lear Levine, and today I want to talk about how insanely helpful the practice of EFT was for me last time I went through the home selling and home buying process. It literally saved me. I think I would have lost my ever-loving mind if I had not been so immersed in the practice at the time. You see, the last time that we went through that, I was actually getting my master level certification in EFT. So I was really immersed in it. And it was also the beginning of the pandemic. So there was a lot going on, and it was a really interesting time to both sell and buy a house. A lot going on. So let me back up a little bit here, but I want to show you all the ways that we get in our own way with this and the ways that tapping can help you ease through it just easier, for lack of a better way of putting it. So we had called out the real estate agent and tried to kind of get a toe dipped into the idea of when we want to sell our home, what would it look like? Back in 2019, I guess it was. So they came out, they told us like all the things we would need to do to the house that we currently owned in order to put it on the market, gave us an idea of the current market value and what the process would look like. And I highly recommend doing that for anybody that is even thinking about selling their house, because just like I've talked about any time before, in order for something to happen, it has to start as an idea, and then you have to start taking action on that idea in order to start manifesting it. So even though we didn't actually put that into motion until summer of 2020, it was in the back of our minds. So I know like in 2019, we did a ton of like, I got into the whole Marie Kondo thing that was going on, and I was like really into straightening and tidying up the house. We got rid of a crap ton of stuff, and just we tackled a lot of projects that we had been putting off, and it felt great. Our house was organized. It kind of felt like I'd gone through, I would say like 80 to 90% of the stuff that I wanted to. You know, we still had those like odd collections of things in our basement and storage that were going to take hours, if not weeks or months to go through. Like things like when you think about organizing or selling a baseball card collection or antiques or whatever that kind of stuff is, where you're like, I don't really know what to do with it or who to give it to, or, you know, do I keep it? Do I sell it? How do I preserve it? That kind of stuff. I mean, my wedding dress is still sitting in a garbage bag with chocolate on it from the cake and desserts that were served at the festivities. And it's been a while. It's been a while. We were married in 2008. So I think those stains are staying, and I think I'm okay with it. And I don't have any girls that are going to want to wear it. I mean, who knows? Maybe their brides will, but I'm not counting on that. And it is what it is. So some things I'm okay with letting go, and that's all right. But anyway, I got through the majority of what we really wanted to organize or get rid of, the ways that we needed to kind of phase things out based on the kids that we had and the ages that they were, and so on and so forth. Now, at that time, also, my youngest was 2-ish. And so there were some things that we were just literally done with at that point, since we weren't planning on having any more children. So we were able to get rid of a lot. And you know, it's always interesting that last kid, how you're able to kind of, oh, they're done with it. Now we truly get rid of it instead of storing it for the next one or somebody else or what have you. So there's a lot that goes out of our doors these days, and especially then. So we spent that time doing that. And then it was like spring. I remember the day even. We went to the park. We took a hike to a new park. I feel like it was June of 2020. And spring and summer of 2020 were like, go visit all the parks, go see all the places outdoors because of the pandemic. There wasn't a whole lot that was open. And we took a lot of nature walks. So we went to a new park, we took a hike, and on the way, I had downloaded a home app. I don't remember which one it was. And I was just looking at things that had recently sold in our neighborhood and general prices of things that might interest us as a family for where we wanted to move. And that was the next step of the manifestation process. And I simply mentioned it. And I was like, hey, why don't we just put our house on the market and see what happens? And because it's really hard to think about moving if you don't know what you can sell for. And it was a crazy market at that time. Things were going on the market for a day or so before they sold. And that was only because people needed that day or so to consider all the offers that were coming in. And everything was selling for over market price. And it was insane. So we both didn't know, hey, can we sell our house? What can we sell it for? Do we want to move somewhere and rent while we figure out what we want to buy? Is what we want to buy even out there right now? And if so, will we be able to secure it based on the crazy bidding wars and things that were going on? So it was a lot of if this, then that. And that alone is a lot to tap on because you have to put yourself out there in order to make it happen. It's not like you can just go home shopping, find what you want, and buy it if buying the home is contingent on selling the home that you're in. So when all was said and done, from that date in mid-June until the beginning of September, I believe September 1st or August 31st was when we actually settled on our home. It was 10 and a half weeks. In that time, we did massive amounts of home projects to the house that we were selling to get it ready, from replacing countertops and sinks to painting cabinets to fixing appliances, straightening things, detail cleaning things, power washing things, landscaping, all the things. Literally every weekend and spare minute was spent doing something to get the home ready. We got one of those pod units and moved out pretty much anything and everything we didn't need on a daily or weekly basis, and things that we thought, hey, we probably won't need this until at least fall or winter. So if it was a holiday decoration for the winter, we put it in the pod. And we just got as much out of the house as possible. And I tell you what, if you're somebody that is wanting to clean out, it's a pretty cool process to go through because some of that stuff, when it came out of the pod several months later, it was like, I don't even know if I need this anymore. And then it went straight to Goodwill or whatever. We didn't even bother moving it into our basement. But if you're having trouble letting go of things and you're just not sure, put it somewhere out of the way for 3 months, 6 months, a year. And then when you come back to it, see if you still care. See if you still want it. See if it still matters to you. It's a great way to know without feeling like you've made a premature decision about the things that you have. So yeah, we got the pod and we did that and we did all the projects. And in the meantime, we start looking at houses as soon as ours was roughly ready to go on the market. And, of course, we put ours on the market and we had, I don't know, half a dozen offers in hand the weekend that we put it on the market, which was great. It meant that we only had to get out of Dodge and leave the house showing ready for one weekend. And then, of course, for the inspections and things thereafter. And we started shopping for our house. And there was so much to go through emotionally just with the selling the house. I could literally just do this episode on selling the house because our whole thing was we loved our house. We loved our neighborhood, great school district, great home. And we had been there since 2012. We had replaced, fixed, updated so much of what was there. But we were at the point where we knew that we wanted to redo the kitchen. We wanted to redo the bathrooms. We were getting into kind of big project territory. And we also felt like with 4 kids, we needed a little more space. It wasn't a small home. We had 6 bedrooms, which was great because we used 5 of them for our family. Each kid had their own bedroom. We had our bedroom. We had a guest room. It was great. But living space wise, it was beginning to feel a little crowded. And we wanted more outdoor space. Again, the pandemic was pretty inspiring for that, wanting a place for the kids to be able to frolic and do their thing when so much time is spent at home. And I was growing my EFT business, which was all happening from home alongside of my fitness and nutrition coaching business at that time. And all of that was happening out of our home. I wanted dedicated office space. At the time, I had taken over our dining room. Literally, the dining room had become my office. There was no dining room table in it to use anymore. And that was fine because we really rarely used it, especially again during the pandemic. It's not like we were hosting dinner parties, but it wasn't the configuration or the feel that we were looking for ultimately. And both my husband and I knew that. So the next logical step was let's look around and see what else is out there. Otherwise, let's totally like build an addition here, revamp the different rooms that we want to revamp, and so forth. But we were looking at somewhere between, $100 to $150,000 worth of additions and renovations at least. So we're like, what if we, just put that into another home and actually got what we wanted? So we found things. And in doing that whole process with selling our home and thinking about that, there's a lot of memories that come up. I brought babies home to that house. I have so many memories of raising my children in that house and good times with my husband and family, parties we hosted, all different things. So there's all that bittersweetness to tap on and to release and to get a better understanding of. And just packing things up. The process of getting a home ready to sell basically requires you to depersonalize it. When you have to take down your wedding pictures, your kids' pictures, their artwork, repaint walls that you painted a certain color because you love it, but the general public doesn't, like my orange bathroom and my bright green foyer. there's there's a feeling of it not being okay to be you or needing to cover things up. There's feelings of shame that come up. There are feelings of bittersweet loss that come up. There are all different feelings to process. And again, tapping was monumental for that. Absolutely. Because that alone is enough to stop people. You come up against those memories and those feelings, and then you think, I'll just stay here forever. And then I don't have to leave those things. But at the end of the day, nothing lasts forever. So you might as well have things the way that you want, right? So, I took pictures, I tapped, I processed things, and I knew that what I was looking for was greater for all of us than what we currently had, and that it was worth going through those emotions and everything else. Selling a home also requires a lot of quick decisions, a lot of high dollar decisions, and a lot of ability to trust your intuition. I did a lot of intuition work during that time and a lot of talking to the universe, because as you begin to shop for homes, inevitably, almost anybody I talk to has the one that got away, right? So we had one home that we totally fell in love with, and I could totally see myself there. I had, vision casting and affirmations all around this home and the way that it felt there and everything else. But also something about it always felt kind of out of reach or weird. And I can see that more clearly now, but it didn't work out. And we ended up where we are. And I know that that's so much better. And it happened last time we home shopped too, before we bought the home in 2012. There was the one that got away there also. And I remember all that feeling of loss, or, if we had just bid higher, or if things had gone differently, or if they had been more ready to sell, all the different things. But at the end of the day, who's the only person you can control? You, right? So processed that, did a lot of tapping on the feelings that should have been the home and it wasn't, and all that kind of thing. And then when we actually found our home and we bid on it, and our bid was the offer that they accepted, and the process was all moving forward, well, that's when stuff really gets real. That's when, you really start to feel that commitment to that home that you've chosen, and all sorts of deadlines start to come together. And the stress can really, really mount. Again, this all happened in 10 and a half weeks. Like those weeks, can't even describe to you what some of those days look like. The to-do list, things that got accomplished, the phone calls that needed to be made, the coordination with mortgage companies, and all the different inspections and insurances and things that need to get set up. It's a lot. And, in the midst of it, trying to manage the kids, luckily it was summertime, so we didn't have the school schedule, but we were moving right as they were going back to school. And it was virtual still then. So again, we were looking for a home that had space for them to be in school virtually, for me to work virtually, for them to be able to be outside more, and for us all to just have spaces and places to call our own. And we had so many problems, structural issues, things that broke. Like, it's a calamity to tell you all the things that happened before we moved in. We came for one of the walkthroughs, and there was literally a waterfall in our basement. It was raining outside. Thank goodness. Thank goodness it was a rainy season and that so many of these things were exposed before we moved in, although a lot not until after we moved in. But yeah, there was a whole sump pump issue, and the water was just coming down the walls in the basement. There was like an inch or so of water that had accumulated on the floors. Crazy. The day that we did our walkthrough before settlement, we thought that my son was talking about a leak upstairs because he'd gone upstairs and he's like, oh yeah, there's a leak on the ceiling upstairs. We're like, oh yeah, we know. There had been some water spots from previous roof leaks that we knew about in the master bedroom area, and we knew the roof was going to need to be replaced. That was already something that we were talking about doing. And instead, we go upstairs to find active water coming through the ceiling in my son's room. There was a problem with the air conditioning unit in the attic. I guess when the movers moved things out of the home, they had cranked it, something happened, it blew, the pan overflowed, and yeah, there was another waterfall coming through the ceiling. So the whole first weeks that we were in our home in the heat of the summer, there was no upstairs air conditioning, and my son's whole ceiling was torn out, being replaced, new drywall, all that kind of stuff, new air conditioning unit, and it was just a lot. We had structural issues where literally we had to have a wall replaced in our home. That was nuts. And just so many things that, can go wrong. And when that's happening, you've got to get the energy right in yourself, because it can really be a downward spiral where it's almost like you're manifesting these things instead of having faith and leaning into what can possibly go right. It starts feeling like everything's going wrong. And that's not a good place to get into. And there can start to be a lot of blame and resentment and feeling of, gosh, did I make the right decision or whatever? I mean, I remember watching the 80s movie The Money Pit during the first weeks that we were here, just because it was so very parallel. So very parallel. We had storms the first week, and tornadoes and things that came through the area. We had a tree fall on our roof. We have this ravine around our house that's gorgeous. We had part of our yard fall into the ravine the first week that we were here because of drainage issues that hadn't been addressed. There were so many things that went wrong. I tell you what, though, like all the work that we've done, like it's like a brand new home. So, it's great, but it was a lot to process. And my point is that tapping got me through it. I remember saying to my agent on several occasions, just saying how grateful I was that I was going through my master EFT training while all the calamity and chaos of home selling and home buying were going on, because I really don't think it would have turned out as well as it did if I hadn't been, because there was so much up in the air, and not everyone around me was in the same place of being able to harness their energy. Not mentioning any names, but I had a lot more to manage than just my own energy. And every day for weeks, there was just something new and unexpected that kind of landed, something new to mitigate and resolve. And it really was a period of time that was very much like living in survival mode, which I often talk about. That's not the way we're intended to live. It's not how our bodies, our minds, our spirits are intended to function. And it's not how anybody really wants to live at the heart of it. We'll say we're managing, we're getting by, whatever, but when we're living in that constant fight or flight mode, it will wear you the F down quick, really will. And I learned so much. I remember that was the year that I was like, 2020, I don't think I ever learned more than I did in that year between the stuff that I did to up level my coaching with the EFT mastery, the selling, the buying, all of the things I learned about homes through all of the problems that we had, and so much more. There was so much that happened in 2020. Obviously, the pandemic and all the lessons learned from the emotions and feelings happening there. Wow, like what a year. Anyway, if you're going through the process of building a home, buying a home, selling a home, or just thinking about any of those things, I highly recommend bringing EFT tapping along with you for the journey, because all of those processes are intended to make your life better. They're all intended to improve something and to give you more control and to make you happier and to give you a home. And a home should feel good. A home should be comforting and however you want your home to be. And it's really, really hard to create that if you're bringing along feelings of not being safe and not being secure, or things being out of control, or everything being stacked against you, or whatever else. And I'll tell you what, those feelings can come up fast in any of those scenarios. So if I can help you at all to navigate the waters of home buying or home selling, or if you're a real estate agent and you need help with that, because honestly, managing clients in the process of buying and selling a home, like, I feel like agents and buyers need therapy through the process. And I also feel like EFT is the best therapy for all parties involved in the process of changing homes, whether you're upgrading or you're going smaller or you're moving because you have to or you choose to or whatever. There's so much wrapped up in that is inner work, guys. Even though a home is a physical structure, there's a lot of inner work, a lot of emotions tied to it, and a lot of things to work out that'll come up for you. Maybe you had to move in your childhood. I know I did. I had to leave the home that I absolutely adored in my childhood. So a lot of that stuff came up for me as I got ready to bring my children to a new home. And everything interweaves. And if you don't unpack it every now and then, examine it, and allow the consciousness to come to you, it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty. And I've never known a better tool for getting conscious and being able to do things with those revelations that come up as you increase your consciousness than the emotional freedom techniques. Thanks for listening today. If you have questions about how you could apply this to whatever you're going through in a process like this, please comment and reach out to me. I would be more than happy to give you insights on how to use tapping for home buying, home selling, home challenges, and give you some help there, because I know that would have been so incredibly valuable to me and so welcome when I was going through everything with my last home sale and purchase. Thanks again for listening. You can always find me at teresalearlevine.com. And I always am happy to hear your messages if you want to send me an email at teresalearlevine.com. And if you want to really chat, check out gamechangingconversation.com and schedule a complimentary breakthrough session with me. I would love to hear what's going on in your life and help you really understand how to apply this technique to your own personal challenges. Have a great day. Thanks so much for listening. If you loved this episode, please share it with a friend or post on social media and tag me so I can personally connect and thank you. Until next time, keep taking bold and brave action steps towards becoming more of who you want to be in this world. You are capable, you are worthy, and you are enough. Keep shining your light.